Bankruptcy rates for households who have cancer is 260% higher than, similar households without cancer. Families are losing everything in order to try to save their everything.
Caregiving in America is astronomically expensive, and there isn't a system for, like, what happens if you're low income or even middle class and you have kids, right? Because the trends are that we are all going to have to take care of somebody at some point in our lives and be taken care of, but nobody's talking about it.
I feel like the whole system needs to be overhauled. I know someone who is a complete badass but needs 24/7 care and can't pay for the hours. And so she has to have her parents come in and fill that role. Yeah.
Have you thought about what happens when your parents get older? Is that going to be like a
about
complete,
that all the time.
like, are you going to be in a situation where you might need help, but also need to care for them because you might financially be the person to take care of everybody in your family?
If I'm going to be a caregiver, I had to make a lot of money because there's a lot of the physical stuff that I just will have to hire other people to do. And it is something that is constantly in the back of my mind of like, well, they did this for me growing up. So like, I will definitely have to do it for them.
And Devon, did you have any understanding of how the medical system worked? And like, did you ever feel completely lost in this, I'm now a caretaker, I gotta, my daughter's navigating this crazy thing and, she's 4.
Right. The NFL insurance was going to cover me for a lot of the expenses. So I was able to give my daughter the best treatment options possible. World-class treatment, first-class treatment that may save her life, but there's a lot of families who don't have the financial resources.
Nathan, what about you and your wife?
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of medical stuff. I mean, she had her surgery for endometriosis. We delivered a baby. And what's insane to me is seeing, when they send you the hospital bill and they do that giant scare thing where they show you how much it was supposed to cost. And it's like $300,000, but they're like, we got you this discount and your insurance paid for this. But so many people, they get that amount.
I know families who are facing these type of bills, like bankruptcy rates for families, for households who have cancer is 260% higher than, similar households without cancer. So it's a lot of families who are losing everything in order to try to save their everything.
It's an unfortunate reality. I mean, we're one of the only countries in the world that doesn't offer paid family medical leave to people who need it, right? So somebody has a newborn child, somebody is sick or needs to take care of somebody who's sick. We don't have a system to support them through that process. It's especially hard on low-income people because if you take time off to do that, let's say you have that right, you're not paid for it and you lose valuable income. People shouldn't have to go into poverty to get the kind of support they need to take care of a parent who's sick.
Mind-blowing.
It's absurd because people have always worked and always had families. But we have somehow never accounted for the fact that people have to do both at the same time and put the infrastructure in place to support that.
So why do we not ever think about that stuff?
We've always just relied upon the default idea that women would stay home and take care of families, which just hasn't been the case for a very long time, and for some communities was never an option. So a lot of caregivers end up overextending because they have very little support and very little options. So they're balancing work, they're balancing all the caregiving responsibilities, and they're often scrambling.
People are trying to keep their life as normal as possible and have that hustler's mentality where you're keeping that full schedule with your job, but then you're also taking on a full-time job of, taking care of your loved one. And it's hard to balance. I struggled with it, trying to take care of Leah and then trying to handle my business on a football field. I honestly believe that sometimes you have to sacrifice something, right? And in my mind, I thought the right thing to do was to sacrifice everything I had for my daughter, sacrifice my career.
If this was a question and we were asking women this question, it wouldn't be a question like balancing your career. You'd say, give up your career. That's what would be the expectation. right? And I know, like, this conversation is about male caregivers and stuff, but I think as men, we need to point out both sides of that problem to actually address it.
One of the reasons why I was excited to do this episode specifically was because when I first heard of caregiving, I was like, okay, let me think of all of the women
Right.
that I know that are caregivers.
Right.
And then you realize, like, wait, did I put that on that? Was that just culture? Did somebody teach me that growing up? Or where did I even...
Historically, the expectation has been that women will raise the children and care for the parents, and that just simply hasn't been the reality for decades. Right now, 70% of all children are growing up in households where all the adults in the household work outside the home. This is an urgent social issue that we've been dealing with on our own as individuals. It's been like this individual burden, but really it requires a collective solution, right? In our day-to-day lives, that means building your squad, your care team. But in the future of the country and in public policy, it actually does require collective action and a systemic solution. So that means raising wages, getting access to benefits, getting states to really invest in affordability of care and access to it. It's changing policy at the city level, at the state level, and hopefully at the federal level too.
I'm somebody that needs other people to do things for me. And there's a thing that you learn of, like, I'm taking so much from other people, which is faulty thinking.